Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that always makes me scratch my head, Peto's paradox.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one.
So it's this observation in biology that huge animals, like blue whales,
Right.
with tons of cells and long lifespans, should be just riddled with cancer, statistically speaking.
It should be, yeah.
But they aren't. So it's almost like there's this secret weapon, and the bigger you get, the better it works.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
So today we're diving into two possible explanations for this. How evolution might have favored some really strong cancer defenses in big animals,
Right.
and this super interesting idea of hypertumors.
Oh, yeah, the cancer-fighting cancer concept.
Exactly. Before we get into all that, I think it's good to quickly recap what even is cancer.
So basically, cancer is when our cells, well, they stop functioning normally. Imagine your body has this insanely complex instruction manual, your DNA, and it tells cells how to grow, divide, and importantly, die.
Right, like a well-oiled machine, everything's got its place.
Exactly. But sometimes you get typos in that manual.
Mutations.
Yeah, mutations. And those mistakes, they can really mess things up, making cells multiply like crazy, ignore signals to die, and basically go rogue. That's cancer in a nutshell.
So they become these outlaws just replicating and making tumors.
Precisely. Now, cells aren't totally defenseless, of course. They've got internal checks like kill switches to trigger cell death if things go wrong.
Right.
Plus, you've got the immune system patrolling, always on the lookout for abnormal cells to eliminate.
It's this constant back and forth then.
Absolutely. And logically, the bigger and longer an animal lives, the more cells are dividing, the more chances for cancer to win.
Which brings us back to Peto's paradox.
Exactly. It just doesn't add up, so something else must be happening.
So something must be stopping the cancer from taking over.
Right. It suggests that maybe bigger animals evolved some pretty serious defenses.
Let's talk about that. Evolutionary solutions. How could these animals, especially the giants like elephants, be more resistant to cancer?
So one key adaptation seems to be tumor-suppressor genes. Think of them as the guardians of the genome. They're like checks and balances to stop uncontrolled cell growth.
So like the cell police, keeping everyone in line.
Yeah, they can repair DNA damage, halt rapid cell division, even trigger cell death if things get too risky.
Wow, that's intense.
And studies show that larger, longer-lived animals tend to have more of these genes, or more powerful versions of them. Like elephants, they have multiple copies of a gene called TP53, a really potent tumor suppressor.
Oh, I've heard of that one. Humans have it too, right?
We do, but elephants have extra copies. It's like they doubled down on their defenses.
Smart move.
And it's not just the number, but how it works. Research suggests that elephant TP53 is super sensitive to DNA damage, so it's more likely to trigger cell death even for small errors. This might be one reason why elephants have such low cancer rates.
That's amazing. So larger animals are basically being extra cautious with cell division, preventing cancer before it even starts.
Exactly. But there might be a trade-off. Some scientists think these adaptations could lead to things like slower healing or faster aging.
That makes sense. It's always about balance, right?
Always. But now let's get to those hypertumors we mentioned. They're really interesting.
Yeah, the cancer-fighting cancer thing. How does that fit into all of this?
So hypertumors challenge the idea that cancer always cooperates within itself.
Okay.
Imagine a tumor, right? It's already rogue cells growing out of control.
Right.
But then within that tumor, you get even more aggressive cells emerging.
Whoa, a rebellion within a rebellion. Cancer cells turning on each other.
Exactly. These hypertumor cells are super aggressive. They multiply faster and can even steal the original tumor's blood supply, basically starving it out.
That's crazy. So are you saying that larger animals could have tons of these tiny hypertumors constantly forming and battling it out, keeping any one cancer from becoming a big problem?
It's a possibility, especially when you think about scale. A small tumor in a mouse is devastating, but that same size tumor in a whale? It's practically nothing.
Wow. Maybe these huge animals are constantly creating and suppressing tiny cancers, and we just don't notice because they're so big.
It's a wild thought, right?
Totally. So we've got these incredible adaptations and the hypertumor idea. Are there any other explanations for Peto's paradox out there?
Oh, definitely. Some research is looking at the structure of the cells themselves. Maybe larger animals evolved different architectures that make it tougher for cancer to spread.
So not just better defenses, but their cells are built differently.
Right. Imagine cells packed tighter or with stronger connections. It'd be harder for cancer to break away and invade other tissues. This might be why some large animals are so good at stopping metastasis.
Fascinating. So it's not just about having more soldiers, it's about having better forts.
Exactly. And then there's the idea of metabolic rate. Larger animals tend to have slower metabolisms, meaning their cells divide more slowly.
So slow and steady wins the race. But in this case, it's against cancer.
Kind of, yeah. Slower cell division means fewer chances for DNA errors, fewer mutations, and potentially less cancer risk.
So many factors. It seems like we're just starting to grasp how complex Peto's paradox really is. But why should we care? What's the takeaway for us humans?
Well, that's where things get really exciting. If we can understand how these large animals resist cancer so well, imagine the treatments we could develop.
That's what I was thinking.
What if we could boost our tumor-suppressor genes? Or create drugs that mimic whale defenses?
Or even use hypertumors to our advantage.
Exactly. The possibilities are huge.
This is incredible. It's like looking to nature for clues to fight cancer.
Mm.
But we're still figuring out this paradox. How close are we to actually developing these kinds of treatments? Let's discuss that when we come back. So before the break, we were talking about how understanding Peto's paradox could lead to some really cool new cancer treatments for humans. Like, if whales and elephants can stay mostly cancer-free, we should be able to learn something from them, right?
Absolutely. And we are. There's already some fascinating research going on. For example, scientists are looking at a compound in shark cartilage.
Shark cartilage.
Yeah. It seems to block the growth of new blood vessels.
Oh, interesting.
This could be a big deal because tumors need a blood supply to grow and spread. If we can cut that off, it'd be a powerful weapon.
So sharks, whales, elephants, it's like the whole animal kingdom's joining the fight. What else is being researched?
Well, immunotherapy is really exciting. It basically uses the body's own immune system to fight cancer. Remember those tumor suppressor genes we talked about, the cell police?
Yeah.
Immunotherapy is like giving them better training and tools.
So instead of attacking cancer directly, we're helping our immune system do the job.
Exactly. And there are a few different types. One is called checkpoint inhibitors, and they basically take the brakes off the immune system.
Hold on, our immune system has brakes.
It does. It's all about balance. The immune system's powerful, but it needs control so it doesn't attack healthy cells.
Right.
And cancer cells are sneaky. They can exploit that control system by sending out a don't attack me signal.
So they're like master manipulators tricking our defenses.
Yeah, like that. But checkpoint inhibitors can override that signal so the immune system sees the cancer as a threat and attacks it.
That's awesome. We're finally giving our immune system the right weapons.
Exactly. And checkpoint inhibitors are already showing success with some cancers, like melanoma and lung cancer. But there are challenges.
I bet. Messing with the immune system can't be easy.
No, it's not. One challenge is that it doesn't work for everyone. And even when it does, there can be side effects. You're basically supercharging the immune system, which can cause it to attack healthy tissues, causing inflammation or other problems.
It's a delicate balance then. Enough to kill cancer, but not enough to hurt the body.
That's the key. And that's where Peto's paradox helps. By studying whales and elephants who've evolved these amazing ways to keep cancer in check,
Yeah.
we might learn how to make immunotherapy safer and more effective.
So we're learning from the best, these natural cancer-fighting masters.
That's the idea. What specific examples are there? Well, whales have these unique immune cells that seem really good at finding and destroying cancer cells.
Oh, wow.
Researchers are studying those to see if we can replicate them in humans.
Like whales have their own anti-cancer task force that we can learn from.
And then there's elephants. They have extra copies of that TP53 gene, the tumor suppressor.
Right. Could we maybe figure out how to enhance our own TP53?
Yeah.
Give us a boost?
Researchers are looking into that, and it all points to the importance of comparative oncology, which is studying cancer across different species.
Comparing how it works in different animals.
Exactly. By doing that, we can understand cancer better and maybe find new ways to prevent and treat it.
It's crazy to think that whales and elephants could help us solve this huge problem in humans.
It shows how connected life is and how important biodiversity is.
Totally. So you're saying learning from animals could lead to a whole new era of cancer treatment?
I think it has that potential, yeah. The progress in cancer research, especially immunotherapy, is amazing. And with Peto's paradox guiding us,
Yeah.
the future of cancer treatment is looking pretty bright.
This is all so fascinating. But before we move on, I want to go back to hypertumors for a second. If whales and other big animals can have these tiny contained cancers without any problems, does that mean we should rethink how we view cancer in humans?
It's a great question. It challenges our view of cancer as always deadly and aggressive. Maybe, sometimes, we can live with cancer.
You mean not always try to cure it, but just manage it like a chronic illness?
Exactly. That's a big change in thinking, inspired by what we see in nature. Pato's paradox shows us that there's still so much we don't know about cancer.
And nature might have the answers we're looking for.
That's right. This deep dive has been incredible. So many cool insights and possibilities. I'm excited to see what new discoveries come next. But before we wrap up, I'm curious. You've mentioned gene editing, new drugs, even learning to live with cancer.
Yeah,
If you had to bet on the most promising path for future breakthroughs, what would it be?
that's tough. They all sound amazing. But if I had to choose, I think immunotherapy is most exciting right now.
Oh, interesting.
It's revolutionary, using our own bodies to fight cancer. And we're just getting started.
It's pretty remarkable to think about.
It is. And by combining that with what we're learning from Peto's paradox,
Right.
I think we have a real chance to make a difference. But before we get carried away, we should remember that cancer is incredibly complex.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not one disease, but many, each with its own challenges.
Absolutely. No easy answers.
But that's what makes the research so important. Each new discovery gets us closer to better, more personalized treatments.
Couldn't agree more.
It's a constant journey of exploration and discovery. And with inspiration from the animal kingdom,
Yeah.
I think we're on the right track. But we've got more to cover. Let's dive into the specifics of immunotherapy and how it's being used to fight cancer when we get back. Welcome back. So before we went to, I guess we didn't go to a break, but before we were talking about immunotherapy being like this upgrade for our immune system in the fight against cancer, it seems incredibly promising, but also like really complicated.
Yeah, it is a really fast-moving field, but the main idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of just directly attacking those cancer cells with, things like chemo or radiation, we're essentially teaching the body's own defenses to recognize and then destroy those rogue cells.
But we're basically like giving our immune system this crash course in cancer recognition and then just letting it do its thing.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And like we discussed before, there are actually several different types of immunotherapy, each of them targeting different parts of that whole immune response.
Right. We talked about checkpoint inhibitors, which are basically unmasking the cancer cells so the immune system can see them. What are some other ways we can use immunotherapy?
So one that's really, really exciting right now is CHAR T-cell therapy. This one's super personalized, and it involves actually taking a patient's own T-cells, which are like the special forces of the immune system, and then we genetically engineer them to target specific cancer cells.
So we're like giving those T cells this custom-made weapon just for that patient's cancer.
Exactly. We take these modified SAR T cells, and then we put them back into the patient, and they can then hunt down and destroy those cancer cells very precisely. And it's showing some pretty amazing results, especially in treating some types of leukemia and lymphoma.
Wow, that is just incredible. Sounds
Yeah.
like sci-fi almost. But you mentioned before that immunotherapy has some downsides.
Mhm.
What are like the biggest challenges still out there?
Well, one of the biggest ones is that, unfortunately, it doesn't work for everyone. And even when it does work, there's always the chance of side effects. Because remember, we're basically giving this huge boost to the immune response. And sometimes that can lead to the immune system attacking healthy tissue as well. And that can cause inflammation or other complications.
So it's about finding that right balance, right? Strong enough to kill the cancer, but not so strong that it causes more harm than good.
Exactly. And that's where, again, what we're learning from Peto's paradox is super valuable. By studying the immune systems of those animals, like whales and elephants, who have evolved these like amazingly complex ways to control cancer.
Yeah.
The hope is that we can figure out how to make immunotherapy more precise and, less likely to have those side effects.
So basically, we're trying to learn from nature's best how to make these treatments even better.
Right. For instance, whales have these unique immune cells that seem to be really good at recognizing and destroying cancer cells. Researchers are working on understanding exactly how those cells work, hoping to, maybe copy them for human therapies.
It's almost like whales have this built-in anti-cancer system that we're just trying to decode.
And it's not just about individual cells or genes. By looking at the bigger picture, the whole immune strategy of these big animals, we might find completely new approaches to immunotherapy that we haven't even considered yet.
This whole deep dive has been mind-blowing, really. We started with this paradox, wondering why big animals don't get more cancer, and now we're talking about these totally new treatment possibilities. It's crazy to think that, whales and elephants could be the key to, like, revolutionizing cancer treatment for humans.
I know, it's really remarkable. It just shows you how connected life on Earth really is and how important biodiversity is. It's like, who would have thought that studying whale immune systems could help us fight cancer in people?
Right. It really makes you realize how much we can still learn from nature.
Totally. And it just emphasizes how important it is to keep doing this research and keep exploring. The more we understand Peto's paradox and all the ways that animals have learned to resist cancer, the closer we'll get to those better, more personalized treatments for everyone.
I am definitely feeling optimistic about the future of cancer research after all this.
Yeah.
It really seems like we're on the edge of this huge change in how we see and treat the disease.
Yeah, I feel the same way. We've come a long way. And with everything we're learning from Peto's paradox and the advances in immunotherapy and other technologies, I really think there's a good chance that cancer won't be the terrifying threat that it is now, sometime in the future.
Well, that's great to hear. To all our listeners out there, keep asking those questions, stay curious, and remember that even with challenges as big as cancer, there's always reason to be hopeful. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back with another one soon. Until then, keep exploring.